Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm seeing 6 participants. We could probably wait for a couple more minutes and kick off the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we could probably kick it off. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah.
Karthik is one of our co-hosts. Karthik, I'm trying to share my screen. Do you mind if you share your screen, share the presentation so that we can kick it off? Right. Thanks, Karthik. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining today. My name is Abhinav Vedan Butler. I work as a software architect in Lazy Boy. It's a manufacturing firm, and we have a team here. Karthik from he's a twice MVP and solutions architect. We have Ishmit and Pradeep working as RPA consultants and present in the UiPath industry since a long time. So today, and we have Diana Gray, our community marketing manager, who oversees throughout America. So main agenda today is to give you all a quick overview of UiPath document understanding, look at the challenges teams face with traditional extraction methods, then introduce how generative extractor solves these bottlenecks. So Pradeep and Ishmit will be going to a live demo where they'll be extracting data from sample use cases. Pradeep and Ishmit, I think you should be good to introduce yourself and kick it off.
Yeah. Thanks, Abhinav. So, yeah, myself, Pradeep Shiv, and I'm working as an RPA developer at KPMG. And today I'll be sharing how UiPath GenAI capabilities can transform the way we extract and process documents. And we also have a live demo, and we'll be sharing the next one. So, yeah. Okay, so today's agenda will be basically introduction to UiPath document understanding. Here in this slide, let's quickly look at what UiPath document understanding is and why it matters. And challenges in traditional data extraction is here. We'll go over why old school extraction methods struggles. Okay, and what is UiPath generative extractor? Here we'll see how generative extractor makes things way simpler. In live demo, we'll show a quick demo so you can see it how it works in real time. And best practices are for prompts and accuracy. We'll talk about how to write a good prompts and get better accuracy. And integration generative I think we lost this last screen share. Is it only for me? Okay. Yeah, so in the 6th slide, we'll be sharing how we look into how to plug it into the real automation flow and Q&A session. And finally here we'll wrap up with your questions. Yeah, so Abhinav, so can we shift? Yeah, cool. Okay, so here in UiPath document understanding, so basically an end-to-end framework that helps us classify documents and extracts the information that we need and validates it. Whether the documents are structured or semi-structured or unstructured or fully unstructured. What's really nice is that it combines rule-based methods like ML models and now that we have GenAI, it based on high accuracy, which means we get much better accuracy across different kinds of documents. For example, we have invoices, receipts, forms, and contracts IDs, and you name it. And it works with pretty much anything. Whenever the system isn't fully confident, it can also loop in human to double check, which honestly makes the whole process a lot more reliable. So we have how to integrate with UiPath Studio. We are going to do it into using. We are going to use UiPath Studio, Orchestrator, and Action Center if it comes. Yeah. Can we go to the next slides? Cool. So in this slide, so as I mentioned, we'll be talking over why old school extraction basically is a bit tricky. So it's good to look at why the traditional data extraction can be a bit tricky. First thing that there's some templates, basically those rigid templates don't really hold up. If the document layout or basically template changes even slightly or here and there, if it moves, and things kind of start breaking, right? And we will end up with a lot of framework changes, or let's say if we are using what is it, a regular expression or form extractor, we have to train it back, and there'll be a basically regular training happening. So first thing, yeah, that, and next thing is OCR by itself also have a tough time with basically scan copies, noisy scan copies, and the handwritten invoices or low quality images, which we see all this we all the time in our day-to-day POCs or yeah. So when it comes to rule-based extractor, takes a lot of effort to maintain as well. So we should be tweaking rules just to keep everything running. For example, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to form extractor, let's say a slight layout change or template change, the particular field we won't be able to extract as expected. So we have to retrain it again, as well as in regular expression, even the slightest words missed or misplaced, we not be extracting any fields over there. And same for ML models also. Okay, so and when you try to scale to a large volumes, right? So for documents, the whole setup usually struggles. On top of that, if any invoices or document isn't in the expected format, we also end up with doing more training and updating ML models or adjusting the entire framework in at some point, which basically pretty time consuming. So extracting information from long or unstructured data or narrative text like style any contents is also really tough with older approaches. So overall, traditional methods do work, but they're kind of limited. So and honestly, so now that we have a GenAI, gives us much simpler and more flexible way to handle all of this. And yeah, can you go to the next slide, Abhinav? Okay, I think Smith, can you take it from here?
Sure, Pradeep.
Thank you.
So, yeah, as Pradeep covered, like there are certain limitations to extraction from the traditional template-based mechanisms or configuring extractors and training models. Those certainly work in multiple scenarios, and for what they offer, they are pretty good. But now, as again Pradeep mentioned, we have certain advantages when it comes to Gen AI. So the first idea is that rather than essentially performing training that comprises of huge volumes of data labeling and here consumption of resources for the training, we can essentially utilize pre-trained Gen AI models in order to extract the data by defining what exactly is required from a given document in natural language. The benefit of utilizing a Gen AI model is effectively that it's able to interpret the document in a way that we need it to. It's able to classify the document properly, and we can also define things without being very specific about their locations where they might be available, and we can even be precise in terms of like how we need the data to be extracted. So if you need a specific date to be extracted, maybe in a different format, you can specify that. Obviously you need to have a bit of knowledge about prompt engineering, but UiPath Gen AI is basically pretty good even if you provide it like a simple one line extraction command, and that's what we are going to see here. And covering a few points from the slides, obviously we are going to eliminate dependencies on fixed templates, and the biggest benefit here is if tomorrow a new type of PDF comes along, there's a high chance you don't have to retrain now, because again we are utilizing Gen AI. It's going to take care of extraction by understanding the document content, and on the basis of your prompt, performing the extraction as required. We can also it's basically available in a form of a simple package in UiPath, so there is less dependency on going into a specific tool in orchestrator and start the training. You can obviously do that if you want, but if you're going to utilize it tools, this particular tool, you're going to save significant amount of time. There are certain limitations to this particular, as every single tool has, talk about after demo. Karthik, can you go to next slide, please? Perfect. I think it's my time to share the screen. So, can you please stop the screen share? And guys, if you have any doubts, feel free to post it in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat and we'll try to answer it. Either in between or at the end during the Q&A section. That goes for both me and Pradeep. We will try to answer your questions as soon as possible. All right. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Ashmit.
All right. Thanks, Abhinav. So let's start with what's required. In order to try out document understanding, you need to make sure that in your tenant, your AI Center service is available. If it's not available, mostly what you need to do is just click on Add Service and select uh, AI Center from here. And apart from that, also ensure the other services like document understanding is also available. In case you see that services are disabled, then you will probably have to contact either your administrator, or you need to make sure that you're utilizing the trial version, or your license essentially covers these two services. Okay, these are mandatory for us to essentially utilize Gen AI document understanding extractor. Coming to your project setup, we are going to develop a simple extractor from scratch. And in order to do that, what you need to do is first of all install this specific activity. I'm utilizing 2025 latest version of Studio here, but depending upon your version of Studio, refer to the UiPath's version guide. which is also known as activity lifecycle, and select the appropriate version. But for the most part, if you're following this demo, just select the latest version and install it. Now, let's look at the input. So this is a very simple invoice document that we deal with day to day in our day to day work. Essentially, what the fields that we are interested in are invoice, who are the entity that we are invoicing to, then the details available in this table, grand total information which is available here. So these are the few information that we would like to extract. Obviously, there is with Gen AI, there is a lot more information that you can extract in a short period of time without training. But keeping in mind that this is a demo and the time we have a time constraint, we will focus on the fields that I discussed. Now, when you create a project, what you need to do is you need to look for extract document data activity. It will be available under document understanding. Drag and drop it here, and then you will have to pass a file. So I'm giving it a sample file. Now, note how this is not passing the exact file path. What it is doing is it is essentially passing a local resource object. So if you don't want to do this, if you essentially want to deal with maybe if you're, let's say, looping, if your file path is available in a variable and you want to check if the file was essentially available before you start the extraction, or you are looping through a specific folder, in that case you don't have to do this particular thing. What you can do is you can utilize path exist or file exist activity. All right, pass your file name here, and then just a second. Pass your path here, and then you can get the reference as an output from here. Okay, so this will give you a local resource output. You can see it's even written here, resource. This resource output you can pass in the in the input of the extract document data. So this is how you essentially ensure that if you are trying to loop over a specific folder, or maybe you are trying to pass the path in terms of a variable, how you can do that. You can either utilize the methods, or if you don't want to deal with the methods, utilize path exist activity. Now, step number 2 is select what type of project you are working on. Since this is a generative action, just a second, I think my VM, all right, it's back. Since this is a Gen AI extraction, we are going to select generative predefined. All right, and then at the bottom, we are going to define the fields that we want to extract. So just to give you a refresher, we are going to start with invoice number and total amount. Later on, we are going to try to extract a few complex fields. So I'm going to define, I can define basically anything here. It does not have to match, like the keywords don't have to match with what you see on the screen, since this is just a field name on the left. So I'm going to say invoice number, and here, right here, if I'll expand this, and what we need to do now is we effectively have to type in the extraction command. Now, what a typical extraction command looks like is something like this. We are giving the command to the model to extract invoice number. Now, this is good enough for the UiPath's document understanding model to essentially perform the extraction. But you can perform a little bit, like we can provide it a little bit more information in order to essentially make the extraction more, you can say, secure, or be sure that the data that we are going to get is going to be correct. So what's the pattern here? I can see that the invoice number that's getting extracted is starting with a hash. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add in one, a particular constraint here that give me a number, which is an invoice number that starts with hash, or a pound sign. All right. So we added the information about invoice number. The spaces are allowed. We are going to see how this gets translated in the output result. But for now, let's define the second field. The second field that I'm trying to extract is grand total. Now, in this scenario, let's try to be a little bit, you can say less precise or a little bit, just give it enough information that that it should be able to extract the data, but not provide it exactly where the data is available. So, for example, here we gave the information that we need to extract invoice number, and it starts with hash, which should be good enough for it to identify. Okay, I am looking for a number that starts with hash. But for total, I'm going to say extract invoice total. All right, that's it. When you do this, it will take a second to load, and then on the right you can see we have document data output available. Here you need to define a variable. You can give it any name. I'm giving it the name of extracted data. All right. So next step that we are going to do is we are going to essentially go ahead and just add a simple log message. We are not going to make it complex and basically write everything down in the Excel file. I presume if you have joined this call, you already know how to write the results in the Excel file. So we are going to save some time there, and I'm going to show you how to essentially view the results in the document or the extracted object, and how to interpret it, and how to extract or access each and every field from that specific object. All right, since I only asked it to extract two fields, so the extraction was quite quick. Let us see the extracted result. So I'm going to print the extracted result in the immediate panel in order to make it simpler for you to view. This is the result that we got. We got invoice number is equal to 38645, which matches exactly with what is available here. And then we have total, which is available right here. So think you need to understand it from the perspective of what needs to be done in a traditional extraction. You not only have to define some kind of an extraction pattern in terms of either regex or in terms of like form extractor, you also have to ensure like that pattern is consistent throughout multiple documents of varying nature. But here, through a simple prompt, you were essentially able to extract the relevant data that you need. And this is the power of generative AI extractor. Like you don't have to, like within minutes, we were able to extract key information that earlier would have taken at least a half an hour to program, to test, and to do more things. And setup of framework is also something that takes time. Again, that's great. There's a use case to utilize that as well, but since we have this option available, I think that's this is something to also explore. Now, before moving on, I would like to also discuss about design time external connection. So if you want to essentially have connection to an external or some different tenant other than what you have access to right now, so you can define the app id, app secret, and tenant url right here. Okay, if you don't want to define that, then you can essentially define those values, the app ID and app secret, in a credential asset, and the tenant URL should be same. All right. So this is how effectively you can make sure that you are utilizing same correct tenant every single time. Let me check the chart. All right. Seems like we don't have any questions. So let's move on to the next section, which is extraction of a bit complex data. So now we saw that we were able to extract invoice and grand total. Let's focus on extraction of who we invoiced to and what's their address. So note this point. Right now, what we have is we have the first line contains the company name, and the second line contains their address. Now, again, I will repeat my point. In traditional template based extraction, you will have to create a solid model that's able to identify the difference that when the company name ends and when the address starts. And we are going to see how generative AI is able to distinguish in between these two data points. So I'll go back to my uh, code, and we are going to add a new field. And here we are going to define who, what we need to extract. So we are going to say something like okay, just a basic, string information, just a basic information that we have provided it. And we haven't provided it information in terms of like where it could be available, what's the placeholder value, nothing, just a basic information. And let's also add another field. Extract address of the entity to whom this invoice is being sent to. Okay, so two simple prompts, and we should be able to extract data technically that would have taken a lot of time earlier in order to ensure that these two data points are properly distinguished by the model. With that, let's start. In the time that it's running, so the first question that I see here is, in what cases would we want to utilize this document extraction in UiPath Studio versus creating a IXP project in Automation Cloud? Okay, see, like I said earlier, that there are certain limitations. So this question technically will be answered once we talk about those limitations later on. But my opinion here is that you need to look into the cost and you need to look into your requirements. Basically, if those requirements are sufficed by utilization of a simple regex based extractor or maybe a form extractor, that's great. Go for the typical template based extractor. But if you feel like you have varying templates and you don't want to spend a lot of development time in order to essentially extract certain data fields and maybe then monitor them, monitor their performance in the orchestrator, and on the basis of that performance you want to essentially perform the retraining. If you don't want to get involved in this life cycle, this GenAI extractor is the way to go then. Okay. Next question is, if we have multiple page invoices, can the GenAI features work? The answer is yes, it will still work. All right. So let's print out the results. All right. So notice this. The invoice to is some company limited robotic automations. The invoice to is some company limited robotic automations. The address is 3216 and ends with USA. The same information is available right here. So with basic prompting knowledge, and basic, it's not even about having knowledge, but with basic prompts, you can essentially extract complex information from the Gen AI Extractor feature of document understanding. Now, let's look into how essentially we can extract or access these specific fields from this data object. So what you need to do is you need to, this is the, by the way, just to remind you, this is the output of the extract document data activity. Okay, so you just utilize the method data here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and basically access any field that you have defined. If you have worked with UiPath, then essentially you know that any methods that can return the data and that essentially you can access right away is signified with this property icon, and you can simply see that even though I defined all the extracted field names or all the field names with a space, okay, but here those spaces are removed and the values are generalized, which is always good. So I'll say invoice to. This is the specific information that you get from the entire data set. And similarly, you can extract all the other fields like total. Okay. So $40 was the total in the actual invoice. All right. So this is how you can access specific data points. Now, can this work on the scanned images as well? Yes, it can work on the scanned images. And this does not require a model training. In our experience, what we have seen here is like this, before coming to this particular demo, we haven't trained on this specific data set as well. Like this is just an old, very old document that I had, and I just passed it, and it was easily able to extract the information from it. It's like similar to what you see in ChatGPT, right? Or any kind of GPT. You provided the data and or a document, and it builds an understanding on its own. That's the benefit of using GenAI. You don't require training; it will build an understanding of its own. If there are few discrepancies, then you just need to update your uh, prompt in a way that essentially it is able to extract the data. Coming to, does it only work with structured data? No, it can work with structured and unstructured data, as you saw right here. Even though I can see that it is invoice true, but there is no way for that it is defined in a proper way that is standardized, like first line will contain company name, and second line or maybe n number of lines after second line will contain the address. Okay, so like I said, it's able to interpret the document and it's able to extract the data. How AI units are consumed. So AI units are essentially consumed on the basis of the number of fields essentially that you are extracting. I would request you to go through this specific documentation that contains this information regarding the best practices of extraction as well. And I will also cover this part of limitations as well. But yeah, AI units are going to be consumed on the basis of the information that you are extracting and basically the number of prompts that you execute, to simplify. Now, coming to the final section of this demo, that let's assume I need to extract a table, which is like I just want to extract this table, and I want to ensure that I get the proper information. So I know that this line has this total and this line has this total. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to add another field and say invoice table. If you would have worked with um if you would have worked with any kind of uh, document understanding project, then you technically know like how complex it is to essentially extract a tabular data. Here we are going to simply define extract. You know what, I have the prompt already ready. I can see like we have less time, probably there will be a big Q&A section at the end, so I'm just going to utilize this for now. And notice that all that we have defined here is extract all line items in the table format that include columns, description and total columns. So Right here, we are trying to extract description and total. Okay, so let's try to extract it. All right. Let's see the extraction results. So this is the data. I'll copy this and let's paste it here. So you can see that it got the exact information that was required. If you format it, then you should be able to see description for the first line is this, and the total was $30. So if I go back here, this is the description with dates and $30. And if I go back to the second line, it's a late fee with $10 as the late fee amount. And same is true for what's available in the document. So with just a simple prompt, it was actually able to extract, you know, the data from the table in a specific proper format. Later on, you can utilize, for the data table activities to convert it into a proper data table. Otherwise, this particular object also provides dot table methods, just like the traditional document understanding objects, in order to get this data. So that covers basically what we wanted to show you about the capabilities of this particular Gen AI extractor. If I go to the few points that we would like to cover, so as you can see here in the official documentation, for in terms of prompt, so UiPath has a limitation, like this activity has a current limit of 50 prompts, which is like a maximum limit. And then the extracted result has a word limit of 700. If you ask me, like, this is a pretty generous limit in both scenarios, because you technically need very specific data when you're trying to perform any, kind of extraction, because you try to get very specific information from the PDF. So, yeah, but still, this is something to keep in mind. With that, I would request, if the PPT can be shared again. All right. So, what are the best practices for creating prompts and ensuring like you get the appropriately accurate data? So you have to be very specific in terms of like what you're trying to extract. Today I showed you that we essentially can define how a particular field starts at, or even if we don't define, it is capable enough of essentially extracting the data. But in order to create a production ready solution, you have to define what you're looking out for, what is the data format that you're looking out for, and what should be the output format. So you can even ask it to modify the existing data in some different format. Like I said in the beginning, you can probably change the date format from MMDDYY to, let's say, DDMMYY, or anything else that's as per your requirement. Then basically you can also define constraints. So for example, let's assume that for some reason a particular field is not available. Define what is the alternate value that it can return. uh, it's always recommended to be precise and concise in terms of what you are writing. Okay, if it's a long prompt, it might lead for the Gen AI model to essentially go ahead and you know try to extract the data. In short, it can hallucinate. Okay, it might try to extract the data don't need, or that is something that was not requested. So be precise and concise every single time. And now, you do have to validate edge cases. Like, this is a must. As I showed you in the demo as well, we have a grand total amount, but what if it's missing? So point number 3 covers that. Like, if it's missing, define what needs to be returned in that case. And then finally, other document understanding components like classifier, validation station should also be incorporated in order to ensure reliability. One question from Naresh is there a way to find the confidence level? Yes, we have overall confidence level and field specific confidence level. Both are saying dot confidence. So through that, you can get the confidence level of each and every field. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Okay. um, Nice one, Ashmit, and that was easy to follow. And moving on to our next slide, integrating generative extractor into our automation workflows. Okay, so as Ishmi said, and when it comes to integrating the generative extractor into an actual automation workflow, it fits in basically pretty smooth. So you basically has to drop it in the document understanding pipeline. So basically, the usual workflow, like load the document, use the OCR, and extract the data using any type of extraction and validates it. And at last, then export whatever you need. It's pretty much plug and play. And also for scaling purpose, you can run it together with the AI center and orchestrator storage and queues, which really helps when you're handling a large document volumes. Everything at that point becomes easier to manage. And also when it comes to triggers, you can trigger these workflows from pretty much anywhere. Basically, an email coming in, also an attended bot just by clicking a button, or even a fully unattended job running in the background. Okay. So once the data is extracted from after validating and pushing it to a export, you can send it straight to your downstream systems like ERP, CRM databases, or even custom APIs. Basically, wherever your business process needs it next. And to make the whole setup more reliable, you simply need to add some validations and exception handling and validation logics on top, so you can catch exceptions or issues before it reaches exporting. Plus, whenever something needs a human check, Action Center steps in with human in the loop approval, which really helps in improving accuracy and confidence in our workflows. Okay. And to come up with on top of that, you can also update your prompts easily, so improving accuracy or adding in new fields basically doesn't become a huge development efforts. You can also use best practices as Smith has mentioned. So with adding few more points like adding logs in your in orchestrator, so you can get a full trial of what was extracted, what faulted or failed, what went for review, and basically why it failed. So it's super handy for troubleshooting and debugging purpose. And since it's all part of basically UiPath system, so you can reuse the same components across multiple process automations instead of again building from the entire thing from scratch. So it's basically saves a lot of time. And also you can get the benefit of storage queue based scaling, as I mentioned earlier, and the ability to run multiple document types like structure, semi-structure, unstructured throughout the same pipeline that we just with little here and there small tweaks. So we said overall it plugs into your automation flow in really clean, flexible, and especially when you want something that works in simple without any coding, basically. Yeah, so with that, we have reached the final slide, which is Q&A sections. So please feel free to share any questions or clarification you would like to discuss. Thank you. Thanks, Ismail. Thanks for your webinar. Thanks, Karthik. Thank you.
But Ishmit and Pradeep, I think there's some more questions in the chat as well that we could probably.
Yeah, I think I have addressed them, but a couple of common points here, like is it available on-prem? So it's a part of AI Center, and AI Center is on-prem, so technically you can get it on-prem, but by default it's a cloud offering. And coming to formatting rules, so I think Abhinav, you have already defined. Like any document understanding project, you can define custom data formatting rules. But the biggest benefit here is you have while defining the prompts, you can also define what type of format you require the output to be in. In the best practices slide, we also covered that if you need the data as an output in JSON format, specify it. Specify how your JSON output should look like so that it can format it in the same way. Okay, let me go through more. All right. So regarding which model it is utilizing, so as per the documentation, it's utilizing UiPath suite of LLM models. And regarding this data security, I have shared a link in the chat, which covers the data security section as well. So I would request you to go through that and basically see how the data is basically your data is going to be managed, how the keys are effectively managed for this particular offering, and how data is basic and other legal information. So all of that is defined in that link. Yeah, Ashwini, I think you can get the recording in the same in the same event description where you registered, probably sometime tomorrow. Abhinav and Karthik, you can clarify regarding the timelines, but yeah, it should be available soon.
We can probably share that in the next 2 days, Ashwin.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Any other questions? Thanks, Vital. All right. Okay, Abhinav, Pradeep, and Karthik, I think we should be good. Team, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us either on our information is available, within the UiPath forum, so you can reach us out there or on LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you so much for attending this session.
Thanks everyone.